Welcome to NextFem Leaders, a podcast for conscious, ambitious women who want to make a real impact with their careers without losing themselves or their well-being in the process. I'm Isabel, your host, a leadership coach with over 13 years of corporate experience. I know how hard it is to lead in systems not built for us, especially if you're introverted, kind, intuitive, or spiritual. So here, each week, I will share tools, insights, and inspirations that blend the practical and the mystical, the feminine and the masculine, so that you can lead your career with clarity, confidence, and authenticity. If you know in your bones you're meant for much more, you are in the right place. So let's start. Welcome, beautiful woman. It's a new week, a new month, and a new podcast, and I'm so excited. You have been asking for it for a long time, and especially giving the idea so much love in the last few weeks while I share the behind the scenes with you through Instagram and LinkedIn, that I feel incredibly honored and grateful to be here with you today. So this is the podcast that, starting today, will be part of your routine every Monday morning so you can start the week connected and empowered. I will be here with you through this episode so that you can remember that yes, you are a leader, a beautiful, conscious, ambitious woman who can create a great impact in this world through her work, what I personally call a NextFem Leader. And when I say a leader, let me clarify a little bit, because I'm not really referring to a job title. I'm not really referring to you being a manager. What I really mean is a woman who leads with her presence, with her truth, and creates impact regardless of her role, age, or seniority. And if you have been following my work, you probably know that I work with women of every age, because you are never too old or too young for this deep work. And really the world needs you to lead with confidence and truth, because as I often say, we need more conscious women at the top. And when we women work together, we create magic. So let me work with you on this. And from now on, you will discover tools, insights, and inspiration to use your mind and being to create your reality. And if you just landed here and you're wondering, who is this woman? I never asked her for a podcast. Let me introduce myself. I'm Isabel Fonseca, Uruguayan living in Amsterdam, accountant by profession, and with more than a decade of experience working in finance across Uruguay, Ireland, and the Netherlands. Nowadays, I work as a female leadership coach and mentor, and the founder of NextFem Leaders School. And my mission is for the world to be led by conscious women. For us to stop conforming and start trusting ourselves and our truth more than anything else. For us to stop living at just 20% of our potential, held by fear of being too much or not enough or something. And I honestly believe we are at a crucial time for women in the workplace. I think we have come so far, but very often at the cost of losing ourselves, our well-being, and our sacred feminine in the process. And I believe it's time to pause and reassess what female leadership means and reconnect with what being a woman really is, so that we can build new, more aligned models of female leadership. And I also want us to do it all with mental peace. Yes, I know it's ambitious, but I also know it's possible. And I know it's possible because I have lived that transformation myself. So let me share my story so you can understand why this is so personal and so important to me. And it all started a decade ago when I was 26. And I had a successful career as an accountant back in Uruguay, working for one of the big fours. And I was lucky enough to travel for 6 months around Asia and Europe, a trip I often talk about. And that trip really changed me, reconnected me, because I reconnect with the passion I have for knowing the world and the different cultures. But when I came back, just after 2 weeks, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And 3 months later, she passed away. She died this year, 10 years ago actually. And tomorrow, 3rd of June, will have been her birthday. And that's why I wanted to release this podcast to celebrate her. Because everything I do, I see it as a continuation of her legacy in the world. And as you can imagine, her death shook me to the core. I spent more than a year buried in grief. And she had always been deeply spiritual, but I honestly wasn't until then. I was in my early 20s, so I couldn't care less about these things. But in my search to reconnect with her, I found myself attending to a meditation group. And during a workshop, I saw her. I spoke to her. And that moment opened the door to my own spiritual path. Meditation, personal development, yoga, breathwork, you name it. I dive into thousands of books, workshops, and trainings. But the more I connected with myself, the more I realized a painful truth. I had lost myself in adulthood. And really confronting death and seeing my mom leave this world so proud of her life made me realize that not too much in my life felt like mine. I felt like I was following somebody else's checklist. The perfect job, the perfect career, the perfect relationship, and starting to build plans I didn't even want. And it might sound like a cliche, but this is actually how it happened. One day, I was on the beach in Brazil reading The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which is a beautiful book around dreams, when I felt a voice coming from deep inside. I want a life on my own terms. I want to leave this world knowing that I live. I want my life to say, Isa was here. And since that moment, the truth is my life has completely changed. I proactively changed my lifestyle, my relationships, and eventually decided to chase my dream of living abroad. And I moved to Ireland 8 years ago. And from that day on, my life has been my way. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but always aligned with what I feel is right for me at every moment. But years later, I faced a challenge. I was working in finance by day and immersed in spirituality at night. And at some point, it started feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. I was too mystical for the corporate world. I was too practical for the yogis. I had become great at speaking to the universe, but I didn't know how to bring that energy down to the earth, how to take action to actually change my reality, how to use this wisdom with my colleagues around or not getting angry with my manager. So I went deeper and I started working with a coach and instantly fell in love with the power of rewiring our mind, understanding how our beliefs really shape everything we do. And that's when everything started to shift for me. I train in coaching, neurolinguistic programming, and positive psychology. And the more I work on my mindset, the more confidence I built, the more aligned step I took. And my life really started to change. My work started to be more aligned. I started building a beautiful relationship. And we moved to Amsterdam 3 years ago. And then came the cherry on top of this. I started sharing my love for these practices 5 years ago. And suddenly I started finding my tribe. I started building a community of women with who to grow and evolve, women who both support me and inspire me. I began leading women's circles, first in Uruguay and 2 years ago in Amsterdam. And what I discovered was that I wasn't alone at all. Everything I have been through, the doubts, the disconnect, the double life, even the grief, others were going through it too. For years, I was sneaking out of my corporate jobs to go to meditation classes, to go to yoga, feeling like I was the weird one. But slowly I started to realize there were probably other women in the same company doing exactly the same. I wasn't alone, I just needed to find the right people. 2 years ago, I created the NextFem Leaders School to support women in their personal and professional empowerment. This is not the name we have originally, but it's the one that came a few months ago when I started to reflect in what we're actually creating here. And in these years, I have supported hundreds of women in Amsterdam and abroad through leadership coaching, women's circles, and workshops, helping them lead from inside out. And to my surprise, most of the women feeling these events and programs were actually in corporate. They were ambitious and practical, but also mystical and deeply connected to themselves. Yet many of them felt like they were living two separate lives, one logical and one spiritual, one practical and one intuitive. And often that disconnection leaves us exhausted. It's like wearing a mask for most of the day. And let's be honest, our careers are too big of a part of our life to be spent disconnected from who we truly are. That's why I made it my obsession to build bridges between these two worlds, to integrate your sacred feminine into your professional path, to help you bring both your practical and mystical sides together and assume your role as a leader, as a NextFem leader with confidence. Because I believe that when we are between two worlds, our mission is to be a bridge. And my beautiful sister, your mission is to be a bridge to a new type of leadership with feminine principles and consciousness. And here, through this podcast, I want to teach you how to do that in the same way that I have supported hundreds of women to do it. So, in my one-to-one program, Becoming Her, and also in my leadership programs, I guide women through this 3-step process. And if you know my work, you know that I love simple stuff, simple things, simple, clear processes. So the first step of this process is to connect back to yourself. And I usually call it clarifying your vision. Because in order to start this process, we need to have some awareness of where are we walking towards. So it's like we were using a GPS in your phone, in your Google Maps. We need to know where we go so that the path starts appearing. And here is where a lot of people get stuck, because we need to build that clarity, but we don't need to have the clear, perfect response. We need to start asking the questions. We need to really dare to start opening spaces for the answers to come. And to do that, we also need to spend time with ourselves, to really know ourselves, to really reflect on who we are, on what makes us us. So that's the first part of this process, that it means clarifying your vision, clarifying who you are and who you want to become, and allow yourself to really dream big, dream bigger than what we have thought to, because I feel we're not dreaming big enough most of the times because we have so much fear of failing. So that's the first part, really holding that uncomfort of not knowing all the answers, but that asking the questions and daring to dream bigger. The second part, I call it the cleaning. The cleaning part, not as romantic or not as fun probably, but so much needed, because we need to acknowledge that we have been part of a patriarchy, and not only us, but also our mothers and our grannies. So we carry a lot of information, and we carry a lot of limitations, we carry a lot of fears, of resistance. So this part is really to clean everything that is not serving you. And basically everything is a belief, but we can choose which beliefs to feed and which ones to let go in some way. So this is the part where we really learn how to use our mind, our primitive brain, in a way that allow us to take actions and to move forward, and it's not stopping us every step of the way. So this part comes with a lot of reflection and of course a lot of compassion, and I always invite women to embody 2 things when we go through these processes and when we go through my events as well: compassion and courage. The courage to change, and the compassion to know that it's not our fault, but still our responsibility to change our limiting beliefs. And the last one, and probably my favorite, because something I have seen that sometimes in the spiritual world we are missing, is the action part. So the last one is taking aligned actions. And what I mean with aligned actions is, after having this awareness of clarifying our vision and knowing more about ourselves, and after cleaning, after doing this cleanse of everything that is not serving, usually what happens is that we start being way more intuitive, because there is space for our intuition to come, for that inner wisdom to start appearing and giving us ideas on next steps. So it's really taking those steps, because I really believe nothing happens until we start acting as the women that already achieved that. And we really start by acting like her. We start becoming her. And that's why I decided to put this beautiful name to my program, because actually the word becoming means begin to be. So These are the same steps I will be sharing with you in this podcast. And of course, we will go through all the challenges that I see the most in women. So we will definitely talk about how to lead our saboteurs, so how to deal with perfectionism, with high achievers, with people pleasers, with avoiders as well. And we'll also talk about how to heal the visibility wound and how to really make ourselves and our work more visible. We'll talk about how to build that confidence. We'll talk about how to be more assertive, how to set better boundaries. So all of these are topics that will be coming in the next episodes. It's my absolute passion to give you everything I have learned so you can create a career and a life on your own terms, one that has your own stamp. You can also find me on LinkedIn, where I often share tools, insights, and create a powerful community of conscious, ambitious women. And as a final invitation, I would really like to know, what did you take from this episode? What spoke to you? And share your insights, your questions, your reflections with me. I would love to hear from you. Would also love to know what other topics would you like me to discuss in the next episode. Because this podcast isn't just about listening, it's really about growing together. So let's begin this journey, sister, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, let me know on Instagram at NextFem Leaders, or send your thoughts and reflections to info@isabelfonseca.com. I truly would love to hear from you. And if it resonates with you, I would be so grateful if you left a review or a comment so that it helps more conscious, ambitious women to find this space. And please don't keep it for yourself. Send it to another woman you know who needs to hear this message today. See you next Monday at 8 a.m. Until then, keep leading with your truth and remember, you already are a NextFem leader.